Hello, today I would like to have an interview with you. We will discuss about cultural differences. All of the questions and discussion today will be related to the cross-cultural communication. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kao. I'm currently a third-year student at National College. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Ekapon Arkathon. You can call me Peace. I'm currently in my fourth years at MUIC, Mahidol University International College. I have spent my middle school time in India for 3 years, and I spent approximately 2 years and maybe and a half in study in Lincoln High School in New Zealand. So basically, yeah, basically I would like to maybe share my experiences on that too. Yeah.
So as you have been experiencing different culture, you might have lots of knowledge and experience in their culture. So for the first question, why do you choose to go to New Zealand?
So basically, it's not me choosing to go to New Zealand, but it's my father's choice of having kind of like he thought that it would be the good opportunity to send me to New Zealand to learn kind of like the new culture, doing the new culture exchange, rather than maybe come back to Thailand and sit and learn in the classroom. Maybe my father want me to learn a lot of things about life, want me to maybe kind of like obtain the new experiences by myself and be able to withstand with myself, and also it's just like also I support my father's choice due to that. I think it would be the good opportunities for me to kind of like gain some of the new knowledge and maybe know-how of how to survive, or maybe how to stay in the maybe in different culture or different places or society. Yeah.
I totally agree with that because um, since I never been abroad before, but I actually totally agree to what you said that gaining experience not only in Thailand actually better than staying only inbound. So what do you like about New Zealand?
What do I like about New Zealand? Maybe if I talk in terms of society, then it would be people, because people over there, they are nice. They are kind of like giving treats every morning. They come and talk to you like a friendly people do, and they also bake kind of like the bakeries or doing kind of like the dinner stuff and invite you to their house. They are kind of like, you know, the kind society. Even though the society over there is just like the small, maybe just like the small society, because they are kind of like, the population in the New Zealand is not that big. So then, kind of like the small society. Yeah. Then, yeah, just like when you stay over there, even though you are the foreigners, even though you are the Asians, you feel kind of like being different in yourself, right? Staying over there, like having different culture and things, but you don't even feel the differences when you stay with the New Zealand people, because they're just like giving you the friendly expression and feelings to you, and you feel kind of like accepted in their culture. It's just like sense of belonging, when you feel accepted by someone, you just like, maybe it takes time, but sometimes when you feel it, that the people accept you in their society, then you're gonna kind of like get along with them. So I also have kind of like many New Zealand friends, and they're also nice. I can remember that one day, my first class of the hospitality class, I have to do kind of like the cooking things, and I have no friend to do it. And there's one New Zealand friend who kind of like New Zealand friends who talk to me, and then yeah, maybe he said that, can I be your partner or something, or you can be my partner. Yeah, I can't remember that, but yeah, and from that time I became friend with him for maybe 1 or 2 terms. Yeah, it's just like, they're friendly, and yeah, you feel kind of like comfortable with.
Yeah, that's very nice to hear. So based on your experience, are there any cultural difference between Thailand and New Zealand?
Basically yes, yeah, because in Thai culture we are normally, when you meet some of the new people, you don't talk with them, right? But in New Zealand, when you meet with the new people, you don't even do anything. They just came to you and talk to you, just like, it's just different feelings. When in Thailand, it's just like if you stay quiet, people will stay quiet. There's not gonna be kind of like the interaction going between that. But in New Zealand, even though you stay quiet, but in kind of like different group of people or in among many of the peoples within a group, they were just like the New Zealand people are more like, I mean, I consider them as the extrovert people because they just like they talk when they have the chance, you know. They just talk to me every time they have a chance. So I feel that kind of like the big difference there. And also in New Zealand, people normally I think in New Zealand people normally have to, I'm not sure about this, but it's not that different from the Thailand, but in New Zealand people just like have to maybe consider the word they talk. Just like they don't have to do, I mean, you know, when people talk, even though in English, you know the bad word, right? In New Zealand, they just talk like they are using it with the bad word and the good word. It's just like maybe it seems normal to Thailand, but in Thailand, you know, when you talk in Thai, it's just like you have to say to your friend like "กูมึง," right? But in New Zealand, it's just like a different new word. It's just like bro, or just like, you know, when you call babe in New Zealand, they call babe because they want to, I mean, want to show the expression about their, I mean, their woman friends. Yeah, it doesn't have to be the girlfriend or anything. They can call babe to their friend. Yeah, and also, yeah, but in Thailand you cannot do that, right? Maybe kind of like showing the small differences. I don't know, but yeah, maybe these two things gonna be the visible differences I could possibly speak right now.
So let's talk about a little bit about the cuisine. So do you have any favorite cuisine there, and what is it?
Favorite cuisines? Not really, but I could remember the first time I went to New Zealand and the host family took me to one of the restaurants called The Rock in Christchurch. The Christchurch is the name of the city I live in for 2 years in New Zealand. As I could remember, this restaurant, I mean, the cuisine is just like giving the vibe of the punk rock restaurant where they're gonna be the band playing the music. I mean, the rock music, in which my host family likes it a lot. So he took me to that place for the first time. He met me, and then the first thing that I ordered is the lamb shank. You know what the lamb shank is, just like the lamb thing. Yeah. And it was like new to me, but I heard that in New Zealand the lamb shank was to kind of like the famous thing people eat over there, so I want to try. And yeah, and from that day that cuisine become my favorite place to visit, and I order lamb shank. I mean, once a month I visit there. Yeah.
I really want to try. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic. I'm going to talk or start with traveling. Do you travel often?
Yeah, I do travel a lot. I also doing kind of like the backpacking when I'm there. I went backpacking and yeah, with maybe sometime with host family. One time I go to cave streaming. What is cave streaming? The cave streaming is that you enter the entrance of the cave, and then you have to walk through in between of the cave and find the exit, you know, and that's called cave stream. And inside the cave, there gonna be kind of like too much of water there, just like small waterfall, rocky surface and things, and you have to climb and make your way to the exits. And yeah, as I could remember, I went there for 2 times, and it was kind of like the good experiences, and that made me love traveling even more. Yeah, and I also went there kind of like I also travel alone. I went to the mall alone. I went to the beach alone. I going to the off province in New Zealand alone, and then come back. Yeah, it's just like a day trip because my age right there. I mean, my age at that time is not that kind of like it's not reaching 18. So my host family is gonna be, yeah, they don't want me to stay overnight. Yeah, that's why I have to do day trip, just like backpacking and stuff. Yeah, not that big though. Mhm.
Okay, so apart from New Zealand and India, where did you go? Like, where else did you go apart from New Zealand and India?
I went to Japan. I stayed there for 3 weeks because when I entered the MUIC as my first year, I spent there I spent my time for 3 weeks in Japan because of the summer program. At that time I was at kind of like the Japanese level 3, and yeah, just like, yeah, I want to experience kind of like the Japanese culture over there. So I give myself a chance to stay there for 3 weeks, and it was the great experiences. Just like I could learn how to, I could learn how to speak in Japanese. I could learn how the language in Japanese can emphasize something different from the other language, or kind of like the Japanese people react to the certain things, which is maybe different from the other culture structure kind of thing. Yeah, right? The kind of like the Japanese way of behaving is different from the Western people. Yeah, kind of like that. And I also learned about how to communicate with Japanese people within the polite way of using the language, because over there people are concerned about the way you use the language. Yeah, and also the culture over there is kind of like too strict, because you have to follow the rules of the society, and you have to know that you cannot do anything. You cannot do everything in the society without any consent of someone. The consent of someone can it be like, the people within the society, the people within the Japanese society behave to the rules and being strictly to the rules more than the people in Thailand or the people within the USA or UK. Yeah, that's why you have to be, you have to be certain with yourself. Know what you are doing over there. Yeah.
Okay, so most of the time when you're traveling, which airline do you use most? Like, yeah.
Which airline? Maybe Qatar Airline and Emirates. If the most, then it would be Emirates. Yeah, Emirates Airline.
What do you like and doesn't like about the airline you have mentioned before?
For the Emirates, I don't like. I want to say that I don't like the things they offer as a food, because every time they offer me the food, it's just like, the steamed rice and the chicken. But I fly from the Australia to New Zealand, right? But they offer me the steamed rice and chicken, and it was like, bro, it's not that. It's not the meal that I'm looking for. It's just like this too simple meal, but the price that I paid for it, more than 50,000 baht, and I get only, in Thai we call kaman kai, and only steamed rice and chicken. Just like, what? Oh, I'm getting kind of like too low value of meals that I'm getting. Yeah, it's just like the value added product is not that big, and I feel like disappointed in it, because Emirates is a big airline and it's too famous because it's well known. It's well known to many part of the world. Yeah, it's just the big company. Maybe they deserve to do better. But the good thing I like about them is that the management within the airline, it's kind of like, they are pretty good. They have good organization. They have good training to the to the staff, and the announcement is not that too noisy. They just announce the important things. It's not like the small airline do. The small airline just announce everything that they have to announce, but in the big airline they just announce the important thing. They don't announce that often. And also the seat. The seat is also giving you space to stretch yourself and to sit comfortably. Yeah. And what I like the most about Emirates Airlines is that they have kind of like the big screen, so you can watch the movie, spend time over there for the long flight. You can watch the movie. spend time watching it until you reach the destination. Yeah, that's what I like about it.
So the third topic that I'm going to talk about is famous people. First, I would like to say that every culture have their own perspective on famous people or celebrity. In this case, I think there might be a difference between Thailand and New Zealand on how people perceive famous people or celebrity. What are your thoughts about this?
For the celebrity, right? If I can hear correctly, yeah. I'm not sure about the New Zealand one, but in Thailand, they just perceive it as I can't talk in any aspect, right? Apart from what you're saying, yeah. Maybe in Thailand, they're maybe too concerned about the social ranking. They're just like, the celebrity in Thailand is just like they have to show what they are doing on the Instagram, on the Facebook, or anything. But in New Zealand, not many people are doing that. They just like, the celebrity in New Zealand just like they are, even though they are posting stuff on the Instagram, but in real life they are helping their families at the farm. As I can see in many cases, yeah. They're just like staying in the simple life. Because in New Zealand, from the root, they're just like people growing from the farm, people are doing stuff from the root. They're just like spending time with family at most. But in Thailand, celebrity in Thailand just like spending time with their boyfriend or their girlfriends, or they're spending time doing their work for 100% of their time. They just like spend time to their families when they're in my opinion, they spend time with their families when they want to show something to the society, Just like not showing off, but they want to show them that they are doing this for their mother or their father, and they want to gain the social recognition for what they are doing, for their action. But in New Zealand, not many people doing that. People are doing things that doing things that they want to do. If they want to do kind of like the farm thing, people are not gonna judge them by doing the farm thing in their backyard or something. But in Thailand, if you are a celebrity and you want to do the farming in anywhere in Thailand, when people find out, you're gonna be in the first page of the newspaper, just like heading line. The celebrity XXX doing the kind of like the farming in their backyard and feel like awkward or something like that. Yeah, in Thailand, it's just like feeling weird, right? But in different culture context, it's just like a normal thing. It's what people do in everyday life, and it's like their preference. And that was feel different from Thailand.
So now let's move on to the next topic. Have you ever heard or do you know the word diasporas before?
Could you explain more on that, please?
Okay. So basically, diaspora means the dispersion or migration from the original homeland. So what factors do you think that affects people's decision to migrate to other country? This wouldn't only be in terms of like migration, but this also include going abroad or studying in other country.
As I could think of, there could be potentially 2 or 3 reasons. For the first reason, I would like to say that maybe about their personal preference or their personal, about their personal preference. Maybe they prefer that they don't have the new opportunity when they're staying in, maybe for in Thailand. People noticing that working in Thailand just like giving them the small wage. You could gain approximately of 15,000 baht as the graduate student, right? But if you maybe some of the people prefer going abroad or maybe migrate from Thailand to some of the other part of the Western countries. Due to that, they want to gain more wage and money when they are working. Maybe that could be their preference, and maybe they're kind of like the migration reasons kind of thing, yeah. And the second of all is that maybe people just want to maybe just like referring to their needs. If you could say referring back to the history about the Jewish migrations. Maybe they have to migrate because they have to, because due to the war and due to kind of like the Jewish rule and policies that kind of like that the German hate the Jewish approximately kind of like the 100 years ago. Yeah, kind of like thing. Some of the people have to migrate because they have to, and due to that, it kind of like giving the changes to some of the part of the people, how people think and how people perceive and how people do kind of a lot of things. Yeah, maybe that's why I understand.
So now I would like to go back to the topic that we have mentioned before, which is traveling. For in New Zealand, are there any tourist attractions that you like and why?
There are many of the tourist attraction, and one of that is the beaches. What I could remember about the beaches in in New Zealand is that the beach in New Zealand giving you the cold, kind of like the cold feeling when you put your leg into the kind of like into the beach, yeah, and the kind of like the cold feelings. It's like you put your hand into the freezer, yeah, kind of like that. Just like give you, okay, this water is kind of like the temperature is lower than the 0 Celsius and kind of like that, and it's different from in Thailand due to that. The beach in Thailand too. When you stay there, it's too hot. But in New Zealand, it's giving you, the cold vibe. You stay there and you're chilling, and the sun is not gonna burn you, and the wind is just like blowing to you. You can spend there doing sunbath or anything. It's like one of the good tourist attraction. As I could remember, the name of the beach is the Sumner Beach, and I went there for 2 to 3 times, and the food over there is just like, and the food over there are good. I as I could remember, I ate hamburger and the ice cream, the unique ice cream from New Zealand. We call it honey pokey. Honey pokey is this ice cream that made from the the caramel, and with the honey and the vanilla, and just like the great combination of it. And also the another tourist attraction place is Queenstown. The Queenstown is in the south part of the New Zealand. So here is the part that I stay. We call it Christchurch, and Queenstown is over here. So Queenstown, you have to spend your time driving there for 5 to 6 hours from Christchurch. And what people are doing there is that people are doing camping. They put that tent over there and they just like chilling over there. And as I can remember, in the night sky, in the nighttime, the night sky are kind of like, yeah, they're pretty. There are too many stars on the skies, and you can kind of like, if you want to stay quiet, if you want to do backpacking, I recommend going to Queenstown. And also one of the another place is that in Hammer Spring. So the Hammer Spring is giving the same vibe to onsen in Japan. It's just like the hot spring. Do you know hot spring? Hot spring is just like the hot water, and you can maybe put yourself in there and then just like relax and chill with the hot water. And hot water give you kind of like the feelings of relaxation. Yeah, maybe that would be the another place for people to relax. It's a good tourist attraction there too.
So I would like to relate it to hospitality a little bit. Have you ever stayed or booked a hotel in New Zealand before? Was it a good or bad experiences there?
I haven't booked the hotel in New Zealand before, but I let my sister do it. Yeah, I let my sister did it. Just like because at that time I don't know anything about the booking system or any kind of the booking application, but my sister do because she travel a lot when in Thailand. Yeah. And yeah, even though I don't have the experiences there, but I have experiences going to the hotel in New Zealand. The hotel I went to giving the same vibe to being with the host family. It's just like the normal house with the just like the normal house, and you stay there, you rent the room, and then sleep and stay overnight, then in the next morning you just move out. Yeah, just like that. It's just like the kind of like the classic way of staying overnight back to maybe it's giving the same vibe to when in the 19th century or kind of that thing. Yeah. hmm Just like classic way of staying overnight. hmm
Okay, so for the end of the discussion, I will talk about Sackville-Whorf hypothesis. This has related to the language and culture in each country. I would like to ask you, do you think language is important to your life?
I think language is important to my life, and I mean to many people's life too, because language can shape the way we think, language can shape the way we talk, language can shape the way we act, and many things. You know, if I could give the example, then in Thailand, if you know that some of the people speak bad language, but sometimes it can represent them that they are kind of like being kind of rude person or kind of that thing as a first impression to many people, right? So that could be the good example that the language can shape how people perceive from the artist's action or from the artist's word or artist's kind of like the context. Yeah, when you see people talking, in rude or the bad language or doing talking in the weird stuff about the weird stuff or something like that, it kind of like giving you the first impression that this person is not that good, maybe this person's kind of like having the mental kind of like mental problem or something like that. Yeah, language can shape many things on how many people perceive, and also language could emphasize how people see things important. Just like in Thailand, people see in language in Thailand, people see things that talking politely is important in Thai context, right? But in Western region, they just like don't have any kind of like the polite word. They don't have cup or cup. They just like talking in the normal sentence, the normal context. They don't have the kind of the word that represent the superiority. That represent the superior or the inferior of the people. They just talk like, oh yeah, they talk like bro or maybe sis, but that's not kind of like giving the same sense to talking in cup and cup, right? Just like giving kind of like the relative kind of sense of context. Yeah, so that would be the key differences, and that's how the language could emphasize the differences or how people think and perceive things.
In your opinion, what language do you think is the most important and why?
For me right now, I think English is the most important language. For me personally, I think that if you know English, you could talk to, it's just like open to you that you can go to many countries in the world that use English as a main language or the second language. For example, in Singapore, people could talk in English, but they also talk in kind of like the Mandarin or something like that in Chinese language. But if you know English, even though they talk English as a main language or the second language or the third language, you could speak with them directly. Just like giving you more opportunities to learn from the new culture, to go to different places rather than the place you stay right now, maybe in Thailand or somewhere else. And also giving you opportunities to learn many things from different places and different contexts. How people think, how people perceive, how people use the language in the way they use or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so did you think that language important? Does language influence people idea or thoughts?
As I speak before, yeah, people influence their the language influence their thought in the terms of how they perceive things, how they maybe kind of like you know when you talk things in kind of like in how can I say, um, when you talk things that people don't understand and you have to describe as many times as you have to, and still people don't understand, so what's the point of talking to them? So that may be kind of like the different language context that you're staying in, right? Maybe you're talking you're talking in the same language, but the language that you are talking, that you are trying to emphasize to someone, it's not that easy understandable to someone. And that may be giving kind of like the differences in terms of, yeah, how people perceive to their own language and how people perceive to their, the other person's language, kind of like that. The language doesn't have to be you talking in Thai and the other people talking in Thai, right? It can be the body language. It can be kind of like the other language that you're talking to. It maybe refer to the place that, the society that you're staying in. If you stay in the rock, if you're staying in a rock punk society, maybe you speak in the kind of like the other language context, right? And if you are maybe staying in the pop, the kind of like the pop song culture, and you're talking to the punk rock kind of thing, you don't even understand their language context either, and they don't even understand your pop language or kind of the context either. Yeah, the language could have been kind of like many things rather than talking in Thai or talking in English. It can be anything in the world, and also the language could influence people on how they think and how they behave. If that person speak harsh, speak in bad word or behave in kind of like the bad things, it could represent themselves that they are kind of like the gangster or something like that. Yeah, as a first impression, as what I have stated before. Mm-hmm.
So that's all. Thank you for your time.
Okay, that's no
That we
problem.
have.
Mm-hmm.